Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the Junkyard Crawl in Burniston, Mass. At Burniston Auto Wrecking. This is a story of the Blazer's Edge. This is a 1990 Silverado Blazer, next to the last year for this generation, second generation of Blazer, which ran 1973 through 1991. Now this is a 1974 GMC Jimmy dealer brochure, and we can kind of see right here the very beginning of the square body Blazer. And back then we can see the 350 logo in the grille. Other engines you might have seen with the 256 cylinder. And in 1975, the very next year, the 400 made the party, which is kind of cool, but no Blazers ever had big blocks. But you gotta love the Blazer. And the Jimmy, which is of course the GMC version, available in 2- and 4-wheel drive. And at this point in time, 1974, for the last year, a removable top. For 1976, I believe it was, 75, 76, there was a semi-permanent cab, half cab with full door frames and 3-point shoulder harnesses, and the removable top went away. Of course, by 1990, the next to the last year, the roof was integral, was not removable, not meant to be. But again, the crazy thing is, these things at the auctions now are suddenly like 20,000 bucks. So what a shock to see one in a junkyard. But again, this is Burniston, Massachusetts, the Rust Belt, and the Rust Belt has occurred right here. Sadly, this has been exposed to plenty of New England winters, which after all is what these things were born for. Now this one has some cool day 2 modifications. Check out the lift blocks right down here between the leaf spring and the 8.5-inch corporate axle. But that right there looks like about a 2.5-inch lift block right there. And the beautiful thing about the Blazer, front and rear, is the leaf springs on 4-wheel drive models, which makes them pretty easy to do a lift job on. By contrast, the Ford Bronco does have leaves in the back, but up front, that has those coil springs and the semi-articulated beam, which is tougher to get the suspension rise out of. But on these, no problem. Now keep in mind that these Blazers were built all the way through 1991. Meanwhile, the pickup trucks that were based on, starting in 1988, got a total redesign. The GMT 400, which was smoother and rounder. So it's kind of a weird time where from 1988 through 1992, GM pickup trucks were rounded. The Blazers and Jimmys were squared off, both sold at the same time. Now 1992 saw these things adopt the GMT 400 body style and went away the leaf spring front suspension. Again, 1992, the GMT 400 went to torsion bars, independent front suspension on 4-wheelers, but here is 1990, the next to last year, for the live axle and beam axle up front. Now this one also has a 8.5-inch 10-bolt rear axle, the GM corporate axle as they call it, but that's a reverse rotation axle, so that's not something you can put into your Grand National, even though Grand Nationals did share these 8.5-inch diameter 10-bolt corporate rear axles, or front axles in this case, but again, rotation backwards on the front of this thing. Let's look inside of the hood and see what we got. All right, very nice. This is the small block Chevy. This is a 5.7 liter, and this is the throttle body fuel injected aluminum intake manifold. Although this looks kind of weak with what looks like a 2-barrel, that's actually a 2 Venturi throttle body that would have been on top of this. Now check it out. The other engine available was a 6.2 liter Detroit diesel, but here's the rub. In 1990-91, the Detroit diesel was naturally aspirated, no turbo. So here's the crazy part. This 350 made 210 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. By contrast, the 379 cubic inch diesel only made 135 horsepower and 240 foot-pounds. So the diesel was actually weaker in every way, despite the fact that it was 29 cubic inches bigger. So oddly, the 350 was the engine to have. Now keep in mind, the 305 was available in these things up until 1987, but again, the 305 was no longer offered as we get into 1990-91, 88, 88. Now, something we see here is the anti-lock brake computer right there, which arrived in 1990. And we can see all the junction blocks here, but there's the computer right there, which causes the wheels to pulse rather than lock up in skid. Again, for the first time seen in 1990 on Blazers. The 400 V8, by the way, went away after 1980, so that would have been kind of cool, a 400 cubic inch 4-barrel in a Blazer. It happened, but again, no big blocks, unfortunately, in Blazers. Let's take a peek inside. And yeah, this one is a Silverado, so it's got the full boogie interior. velour, you know, nice stuff. And in the back, we can see there the shoulder harness, the anchor point up on the roof for the rear seat. That was new for 1990. It was optional in '89, but standardized in 1990, giving the rear seat passengers the same 3-point harness protection that the front seat passengers had since 1976, where they're about. Now, something kind of cool is this one is an automatic, which means it's got the 700R4 4-speed automatic with overdrive, not the turbo 350 that you might expect in an older Blazer. So the beauty there is fuel economy. Nice touch. And again, of course, these have shift on the fly, part-time four-wheel drive. The full-time four-wheel drive systems were gone by this point in time. Trouble is, they're kind of thirsty and they hurt the CAFE numbers, which is corp average fuel economy. Now, here inside the glove compartment right there, we see the circled marks right there, just a few of the options. C60 is air conditioning. GU8 is the 342 axle ratio, which is one of the most aggressive ratios available. 308, I believe, was the other, 330. And an LO5 is the 350 throttle body injected engine. MD8 is the 700R4. And one of the beautiful things about Chevy trucks and Blazers is that inside the glove compartment is where they put the all-important RPO code sticker that tells you basically the truck's DNA. And again, some trucks have it under the hood, like Dodges and stuff, and certain Chevrolets too, but under the hood is a pretty unforgiving environment where it's prone to rotting away, slipping off, and falling apart. But when it's inside the glove compartment, it's kind of cool. Now, the thing I love about this too is the optional sliding rear windows here. This is factory stuff. This window can open and close to duct air inside and also slide, so multi-function on that one. And of course, the all-important trucker mud flap reclining girl logo right there. It's not a factory option, but it should have been. This is something you see on Peterbilt mud flaps, and yeah, any self-respecting Blazer will have that right there. Well, that's the story of this 1990 Silverado 1500 Blazer. Next to the last for the beam axles, leaf springs up front, and the square body second gen of Blazer. And again, the crazy thing once again is from 1988 onward, the pickup trucks had the GMT 400 rounded body with torsion bars, all that kind of stuff, while the Blazer continued for another 4 model years using the older square body. Kind of a weird chapter in the annals of automotive history where the old and the new walked hand in hand at the same time. But for 1992, yes, the modernized Blazer came along with independent suspension and all that good stuff up front. Whole modern truck. But if you like the story of this particular 1990 Blazer, there's a lot more to come here on the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, doing the junkyard crawl at Bernston Auto Wrecking. Please subscribe.